Unspoken Issues.
Now we're going to get into Nightman number Infinity. So Nightman number Infinity, I'll give the creative team when it hit the shelves here, and then I'll give you... Oh, I got some notes on our creative team here in a little bit. This hits shelves September 21st, 1995. Title of the story is This is Black September. The creative team is written by Steve Englehart. Artist is Dean Zachary. Chad Hunt and Herc, ink artists. Teresa R. Davidson on letters. Eugene Lee and Barry Gregory on color design, and Malibu color as well. I just wanted to throw out some stuff about Steve Englehart here because he is quite the creator, quite the storyteller here, and it's cool that he's still hanging out with the Malibu guys, trying to get this Ultraverse stuff off the ground. But all right, so here are Steve Englehart's top runs from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. So he had done 96 total issues of Avengers. And his most famous core Avenger story was the Celestial Madonna saga. And I said 96 issues total across decades. But the early to mid 70s, he had the Celestial Madonna saga, which is, a pretty popular storyline. And he also did some Captain America. Long run on Captain America, 153 to 186 from 1972 to 1975. He has 32 issues under his belt, which includes the Secret Empire storyline and the transformation of Captain America into Nomad. He also did 18 issues, 1 through 18 of Doctor Strange. And that was between 1974 and 1976. He did some Batman comics, Detective Comics. Also, a total of 16 issues there, primarily his 1977 and 1978 run of Detective with Marshall Rogers, plus his return in Dark Detective. And then Green Lantern turns into Green Lantern Corps. It was Green Lantern number 188, and then at some point it becomes Green Lantern Corps, and it takes that all the way up to issue 223. So it sounds like it's two separate titles. Green Lantern turns into Green Lantern Corps at one point. Total of 37 issues. It's the Green Lantern Corps. He's expanding and telling stories about other Green Lanterns. Other major contributions: West Coast Avengers, 1 through 39. Then Silver Surfer, 1 through 31. He's got a lot of big characters under his belt, writing great stories for him. Now here,
the word icon gets overused for
right.
He's one of the big, I guess, Bronze Age writers. He's like one of the big ones.
Here we are in the 1990s. I'll give you a breakdown of the decade for him. 1990, he has one credit to his name. 1992, he has 6. 1993 has 14. And then 1994, 24. 1995, 21. And then it's going to tail down after that. 1 in 96, 3 credits in 98, and 1 in 99. So right here, it's kind of like he's having this neat little Renaissance period, getting revitalized by doing the Ultraverse. Here we are in 1995, and the Ultraverse is winding down. Nightman is, on the agenda here. Dean Zachary, by the way, I did pull him up just to take a look. He's got 27 credits according to Mike's Amazing World. Worked on the latter part of the Nightman run, issue 14, issues 18 through 22, and the Infinity issue. He does a small 5-issue mini of Hawk and Dove in 1997, and then after that, he's got 4 more credits in 99, 2000, 2009, and 2010. That's it. That's all they have for him there on Mike's Amazing World. So before we get into the summary of the issue, what's your thoughts on Nightman before we jump into the Infinity issue here?
Well, we've given Englehart his flowers. So I think I've talked about him maybe when we did The Strangers before, and he just has a really antiquated style of writing. Mostly the dialogue is what I'm talking about. I remember seeing somewhere in some interview where somebody was talking about Englehart and some advice they got from him, which was to always end your sentences in an exclamation point or a question mark. Everything's supposed to be big and emphasized. If it's not a question, throw an exclamation mark in there. And it makes kind of hokey sometimes. I like the way he writes dialogue very much, and it's often really wordy. I love the concepts behind the Strangers and Nightman, both the two Ultraverse books he spearheaded, but they always sort of left me a little wanting in the final product because I just don't like the style of writing he utilizes for the most part. Nightman is a really cool character with really cool powers. And this idea of there being two and, we find out at the end they get split up in a different universe. So that's cool. And I believe post the Infinity issue, that's kind of how the series progressed. I don't know that I've actually read those, but I think how that works is that we're still following two Nightmen, one in the Ultraverse and one in the Marvel Universe. But that's for later, I guess.
Well,
on Nightman, I like the character. I think he's got a cool costume. The idea is cool and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to revisit what you're saying there about the split because, as we reach the end of the synopsis, I made a point to write down a note here about that. So we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But let me go through the summary here. The story begins with a shocking confrontation. Two versions of the Nightman stand before the sorceress Rhiannon. Amused by their duplication, she declares she only needs one, sparking a tense rivalry between the doubles. Rhiannon admits to murdering women to sustain herself and pursue forbidden knowledge. One Nightman condemns her as a monster, while the other rationalizes her actions as necessary for survival and discovery. To the horror of his counterpart, the armored Nightman pledges allegiance to her, setting the stage for a battle not only of fists, but of ideals. What follows is a violent clash between principle and corruption. The unmasked Johnny Domino fights to uphold his vow of protecting innocence, while his darker double embraces Rhiannon's seductive promise of power and evolution. Their struggle leaves Johnny bloodied and beaten as Rhiannon and her chosen Nightman escape to Stonehenge, where she intends to harness the full force of Black September.
Oh.
Name drop. Picking himself up, Johnny reflects on his past encounters with the reality and realizes Rhiannon has been manipulating them both. Determined to stop her, he dons his costume once again and sets out to confront his corrupted self. Meanwhile, at Stonehenge, Rhiannon begins her ritual. Channeling ancient Celtic power beneath stormy skies, she declares September the month of the equinox, a time of duality, change, and death. As flames rise and shadows twist, she draws upon her warrior heritage, summoning spectral beasts and even invoking Cernunnos, the horned god of the Celts. The alternate Nightman battles fiercely, tested by gods themselves as Rhiannon praises him as a man who could defeat even divinity. All the while, Johnny races across the countryside, desperate to intervene before the ritual reaches its climax. The confrontation escalates into chaos as Johnny bursts onto the scene. Rhiannon cries out, "All hail the end," as the two Nightmen collide, one defending humanity's light, the other seduced by darkness and power. She also states something, "and the beginning," I think is what she says, "and the beginning," something like that. Obviously, all hail the end and the beginning. Then reality tears apart, unleashing a storm of energy that consumes the circle. When the light fades, only one Nightman remains, standing before a vision of worlds colliding and glimpses of other heroes beyond. Alone yet transformed, he realizes something has changed within him. He is no longer simply the man he was. His senses expanded, his connection to the world deepened. Everything feels the same, yet nothing is. Though Rhiannon and a duplicate are gone, Nightman emerges altered, ready for what comes next. Okay. So real quick on the split, because I didn't know what was going on here at the end. So we see Nightman hits the other Nightman. So I'm going to call the unmasked Nightman at the beginning of this the good Nightman. We'll just call him that. And then the one that goes with Rhiannon starts eating bloody falcons and going through all that crazy stuff. We're going to call him the bad Nightman. Good Nightman jumps and tackles bad Nightman, and right when that happens, the Nemesis wave. Everything starts to get gridded apart. Then I think our next panel is just one Nightman standing there. He looks over, he sees the Nightman fighting Wolverine in that one portal. He's kind of looking around trying to find Rhiannon. He doesn't know what's going on. I assumed this was the good Nightman that was still there. That is not the case.
The good goes to Marvel.
Yes.
6 1.
Yeah. And we are. So who's left standing here in this world is the bad Nightman. He is the one who has become involved with magic, whatever Rhiannon was trying to do. So yeah, we see the night.
Because he's got that red tattoo on his forehead or whatever that is.
I didn't know what the heck was going on at first and that right there was a distinguishing mark, but I don't think we see that at all leading up to that, right? Like up.
Right, we don't see the last page.
Yeah, not till the last page. So again, I didn't know who it was we were looking at. I thought the good guy triumphed here, and the other two just kind of, portaled themselves out of there or something like that. That is not the case. So we have the bad Nightman who's now like one with magic, and then we have the good Nightman who, he got shunted off to the 616, and the next book that he is going to be in will be Nightman Wolverine. It shows up immediately after this. Like, I don't know if you've read Nightman Wolverine recently, but it starts off, he comes out of this green like portal.
Yeah.
And he just yells, Stonehenge. He's in the middle of a carousel. Nightman number 1 starts off with this guy fighting the werewolf mentioned at the end of this issue. Anybody reading this, I don't even know if you would have known who actually won unless you are like, okay, he's got the red streak. That means he's... I don't know. It's not clear who won the battle.
I think there clearly was a winner. It seemed like good Nightman just got shunted away. There wasn't really a clear winner, it didn't seem like.
Right. Well, you wouldn't know who's left, I assume, unless you were putting things together that there's that mystical blade down there. Maybe that's a context clue I just didn't pick up on, but I had no idea. I had no clue. My notes here start off with, at the beginning of this, Bad Nightman is a bit confused at the beginning of this issue. He's definitely like, what is going on? He's trying to figure out what's going on, and he's very much like, oh yeah, I want to learn about the power. Okay, yeah, you had to kill a couple people to do that. I understand. Good Nightman is like, you're an idiot. But as we go through the issue, Nightman has to follow Bad Nightman over to wherever this is at. I don't know where Stonehenge is at. I have no idea. Is it England? What's that?
I know he had to take a plane.
Yeah, he had to take a plane because he had to get his passport. And he goes home, and his dad's like, I knew you'd be here. You look just like him. And he pulls a gun on him. At first, it's funny because as I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is Bad Nightman pretending to be Good Nightman so he could get a passport. Not the case. They almost leave you. There's one page that has an ad in between it where his dad has the gun pulled on him. He gets the Good Nightman gets the gun away from his dad, has it pointed at his dad, and says something like, since I'm your son, I'd never shoot you. Like, but since you didn't know, and I'm like, oh shit, is he going to shoot his dad? Doesn't do that. He put in the next page, he's putting it down. My next note is, I love how Rhiannon name drops Black September. I don't know if that's been name dropped in any of the books so far, but she definitely calls out that this is Black September. Fractured reality once again as soon as Nightman tackles his doppelganger. And my last note was before I went on the journey to try and get the answer myself, which is I need Chris to help me make sense of this ending in the beginning of Wolverine Nightman. But I got my answer. I went out and it's like, man, what is going on? And I finally figured it out. So yeah, I mean, again, it's an Infinity issue. It feels like we're wrapping up stories because I know this split happened according to what they're saying with the reality gem between these two people. And we get a little bit of a discussion about how there were a lot of Nightmen at some point. Loki came in and helped him kill all of them, except for the one that was still running around. It is what it is. This is an okay issue. If you're following this story, you're learning what's going to happen here. We kind of get an explanation to, at least when we have the further story going on, this sets that up. I'll give you the floor, sir.
Yeah. So I had read the previous issue not too long before we were doing this, so I remembered him setting up the password with his dad and everything. And the way I remember that issue playing out, we were following, I guess, the bad Nightman, but they made it seem pretty clear that he was the good one. I don't know if there's really a difference. Like, I don't know which one is which, because Dad set up the password with the bad Nightman.
Right.
And then the good Nightman shows up here later and doesn't know what he's talking about. So from the perspective of the previous issue that I read, it seemed like the one that gets with Rhiannon was the real Nightman. But in this issue, based largely on the fact that he gets with Rhiannon, it seems like he's the bad one.
Right.
He's not the original. But Rhiannon is a character that's been hanging around the Nightman book for a while, and he kind of loves her and everything. But yeah, just confusing. I don't know which one is the real one.
Maybe that's on purpose. I mean...
Yeah, I'm assuming the one that goes and fights Wolverine is probably the original Nightman, but who knows? I did note whenever we got to that part of the issue, I wish I was reading Nightman versus Wolverine instead of this. The art is pretty good. I like Dean Zachary. It's pretty clean. It reminds me a little bit of Jeff Johnson, who was doing the Solitaire book for a while, and he does a more than admirable job. I mean, he's not super spectacular or anything, but I liked his art in this. Very clean and easy to follow. I like the deer men or whatever these gods are. That was a cool twist. And the way, like, Rhiannon, she's a sorceress or whatever, so she's using all these weird rituals and stuff. That was a cool angle to throw in as well. So I don't think it was a bad comic, but it wasn't particularly good. If you're not reading Nightman already, what the hell's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I'm looking forward to reading that Wolverine Nightman issue.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about what's going to be happening with the other Nightman, because I don't remember if I've ever read any of those Marvel era Nightman books or not. I know I've read a lot of the Prime and Ultraverse Marvel stuff. The others I'm not as certain of.
Rhiannon does say that is brought to her attention, or I should say, that comes up in a conversation that she has with the bad Nightman, who's still on the fence about what he's doing. It seems like he's seduced by this power he wants from her. And while he doesn't like what she did, he's like, I kind of understand why she did it. But anyway, he asks her because she wants him to love her. Now, I remember that being said. He goes, but wait a second, you wanted the other one. And she's like, no, you guys are the same person. She's like, there isn't much of a difference aside from the fact that, the other one doesn't love her, or at least she takes it that way. I assume the good Nightman, since he didn't go with her, she thinks that he doesn't love me, but you do. You've come with me. And anyway, all right, well, Nightmen, that's what we ought to call the book. All right, let's pick a panel. You go first this time.
Page 17, panel 4. One of those deer guys getting the broken antler right in his forehead.
Ouch, I didn't even see that. I knew he was fighting him. I wasn't paying attention. Dang. All right, good pick. I'm going with panel, just one page, 21, where Nightman is looking back through the portal and seeing his doppelganger fighting Wolverine. And this is Bone Claw Wolverine this time.
He still has the nose, though.
Oh, yes, he does. His nose has not fallen off. All right.